I want to address the boyhood crisis in America because two of my four kids are boys, and this keeps me up at night. If your son is scrolling more than he's sweating, if he's entertained more than he's tested, if he's isolated more than he's initiated, then he is not being prepared for the giants that are already looking for him, and they are looking. Every father of a son is raising a boy who will one day face something bigger than him. That's not dramatic, that's reality. The question isn't whether the giants are coming, the question is whether your son will freeze or charge. Everyone knows the story of David and Goliath. Shepherd boy, giant warrior, entire army too afraid to move. One kid steps forward with a sling and 5 stones. But here's what most people miss. David didn't win because he was emotional. He didn't win because he was reckless. He didn't win because he believed in himself. He won because he was formed. Long before the valley, long before the crowd, long before anyone knew his name. And that's the job of a father. Not to raise comfortable boys, not to raise entertained boys, not to raise spectators, to raise Davids. Because our sons have giants. And the data proves that what we have is a formation crisis. Boys today are falling behind academically. In state after state, boys graduate high school at lower rates than girls. Nationally, boys earn lower GPAs and are more likely to repeat grades and score lower in reading proficiency. In some states, the graduation gap between boys and girls is nearly 10 percentage points. That is not small, that is systemic. Nearly 28% of boys ages 3 to 17 have a diagnosed mental, emotional, behavioral, or developmental issue, higher than girls. Among teens, roughly 1 in 5 has experienced a major depressive episode in just the last year. Suicide is now one of the leading causes of death for young people, and young men account for the overwhelming majority of those deaths. Let that sink in. We are not talking about kids these days. Our sons are not facing a small challenge. They are facing a culture that is shaping them every hour of every day. They just don't look like 9-foot Philistines anymore. They look like glowing screens in dark bedrooms. They look like pornography reaching them before they even understand desire. Experts say exposure to explicit content online is nearly universal among boys by adolescence. They look like social media training them to measure worth by approval. They look like loneliness, and this one should alarm every father in America. Recent surveys show that nearly 2/3 of young men report feeling deeply lonely. Some studies suggest 1 in 7 young men says he has no close friends at all. No brotherhood, no shared struggle, no accountability. And loneliness is not neutral. It correlates with depression, addiction, withdrawal, and despair. They look like comfort, engineered ease that removes every natural hardship from growing up. They look like declining labor force participation of young men. Fewer working, fewer building, fewer launching into adulthood with purpose. They look like online grifters selling counterfeit masculinity, wealth, women, rage, dominance, packaged as strength. They look like pop culture that mocks faith, mocks discipline, and mocks fathers. They look like schools that often treat normal boy energy like pathology. They look like victimhood narratives that tell young men the system is so rigged, so don't even try. And here's the quiet thread tying it all together: passivity. If we're honest, the greatest giants of this generation isn't aggression, it's passivity. That's what Goliath exposed. The army of Israel wasn't weak, they were passive. 40 days of taunting, 40 days of silence, 40 days of waiting for someone else to act. And passivity is the modern epidemic of men today. Scrolling instead of building, consuming instead of creating, complaining instead of leading. The greatest threat to our sons is not that they will become monsters, it's that they will become idle. And idle men are easily conquered. Here's something else. Goliath talked more than he fought. He taunted, he mocked, he intimidated. That's culture right there. Loud, mocking, relentless. But most giants survive on intimidation. They look invincible until someone steps forward. And when David stepped forward, he didn't throw wildly. The stone wasn't random, it was precision. Courage without competence is recklessness. David had practiced in obscurity with no applause and with no audience. He had developed skill. And that's something we are robbing our boys of today. Skill builds confidence. Mastery builds identity. When a boy learns to lift properly, shoot accurately, play an instrument, fix an engine, build something with his own hands, speak clearly, debate well, and lead a team, he stands differently. He carries himself differently. Right now, many boys have opinions, but no competence. They have platforms, but no precision. David didn't just believe he could hit the target, he knew he could. Because he had practiced when no one was watching. That's formation. And when the stone landed, David didn't just wound the giant, he finished the fight. He didn't knock Goliath down and walk away. He cut off the head. There was finality. There was decisiveness. There were no half measures. Modern fathers need to hear that. Don't manage giants, defeat them. Don't limit pornography, eliminate it. Don't complain about culture, build better culture. Don't critique passivity, confront it. Half measures create recurring giants. Now zoom out. History belongs to Davids. Think about George Washington crossing the Delaware, cold, outnumbered, undersupplied. The most powerful empire in the world standing against farmers and tradesmen. That's David. Washington didn't win because the odds were in his favor. He won because conviction outweighed intimidation. He wasn't loud, he was steady. Goliaths look impressive. Davids are effective. Goliaths are armored. Davids are accurate. Goliaths intimidate. Davids act. That's the kind of young men this country has always depended on. And here's the warning fathers need to hear. If we do not form our sons, the giants will. The algorithm will disciple them. The influencers will define masculinity for them. The culture will tell them what strength is. The world will happily hand your son Saul's armor and call it identity. And if we aren't careful, we'll raise boys who know how to scroll but don't know how to stand. So what are the slingshots? Because David didn't need what Goliath had. He needed what he practiced with. Presence, faith, responsibility, competence, brotherhood, boundaries, high expectations. And here's the final reality. One day your son will stand in a valley you cannot enter. You won't be there to speak for him. You won't be there to shield him. You won't be there to explain what courage looks like. What you gave him will be. He won't use what you told him. He'll use what you trained into him. The giants are not going away. They are multiplying. But history was never shaped by giants. It has been shaped by young men who refuse to bow. Raise Davids. Form them in obscurity. Train them in precision. Demand resilience. Reject passivity. Finish fights. Model conviction. Because when the day comes, and it will, your son will either scroll past the giant or he will step forward. Give him a sling. Teach him how to aim. And trust that when the valley opens, he'll charge toward the giants and slay them.
Hey, we the people like Garcia, so that's no excuse.